like I say, you did not want to be alive between 1920 or 1910 and 1950 or 1960. You did not want to be alive. You would be drafted at gunpoint sometimes, or just taken by gunpoint, and you would be taken to one of these places where you would be handling radioactive material, and then you would start to feel sick. And like I say, they got it down to a science. The us people got it down to a science where basically you would go to work on the island in the store, and you would be asked to shave your head, and then you would work and in the stores and in the businesses and running and driving equipment around the islands where they were doing the radiation stuff and the cleanup stuff. And then you would be moved in at an ever increasing rate, so it looked like you were getting promoted, and you looked like you were going to get paid, and you might collect one paycheck or something like that, but you would collect it at the lower pay because you would have just been promoted to the higher pay, and it's like it's a wait of like 3 months or 6 months. But basically, they got away with paying people basically 30 cents or 20 cents. And basically, by the time they got to the radiation, basically in 3 months or 6 months' time, they would be 3 or 4 days away from being dying and going, throwing up like crazy, constantly, pretty much. And basically, they would die, and their checks would be waiting for them inside of the main office. And they would never be delivered, of course. They would just be ripped up or given to somebody else that didn't do any work at all, basically. So there was millions of billions of dollars in unclaimed checks and unclaimed money that was being siphoned and spent by John McCain or the Republicans or someone, basically from all these workers that were dying working at the sites. And basically, pretty much everyone stopped doing any kind of cleanup. It was so bad, and it was so horrible that basically people said, we're not going to do it unless you're involved, LS, Lucifer Star. Because, I had scientists, and those guys out there that were doing the cleanup, and it was already basically cleaned up, so there wasn't really anything left to deal with. But pretty much what Nixon was doing and what John McCain and Jimmy Carter and all of them were doing was criminal, basically borderline insanity, borderline basically just having people work themselves to death between 1 month and 3 months. And this took place between 1940 or 1920 and 1960. Where basically the massive amounts of death happened. Most of the death actually happens there, or some other year. Anyway, and I don't really care. It's like, well, this is the way it was. Basically, America was good. Germany was good. Russia was good. China was good. Everyone was good except for what is considered the us people. Basically, the Ronnie Beretti people, and pretty much the Nixon administration, the Jimmy Carter administration, the whatever administration, which is actually only just now ending. But basically, before that was basically pretty much paradise, and everything was good, and everything was handled the right, safe way, and at very high cost and very carefully. And that would be considered the communist parties and everything else. And then what you actually get to pretty much is basically this point in time where no regard is being taken to anyone's safety or anyone's life, and basically there's this massive amount of death and destruction and wind scale and this huge amounts of chemical radioactive cleanup by these people who have no regard for anyone's safety or anyone's life, and are basically just having people go kill themselves, and then they're having sex with all their girlfriends and having a great time of it. So anyway, and that's basically what would be considered the us people, or the U.S. people, which were the worst people of all. America was good. Everyone else was good. Germany was good. China was good. Australia was good. I mean, even Africa, black Africans were somewhat good until you get to this point in time where basically there's just so much death and so much cover up and so many secrets that it's just ridiculous. And realistically, it's just Nixon, John McCain, Jimmy Carter, and this small group of people that basically pretty much they could get away with this stuff, and they were 20 years old or 15 years old at the time. and and you have like Bill Gates smearing himself with goat blood, going alpha male, running across like what's it called, hot coals, like Bill Gates, the Bill Gates that you know, that isn't really a computer guy. He was a scientist that was part of the LSLS shells, which is actually a nuclear reaction, that happens in a bullet or a shell, that is basically uranium, and like maybe plutonium or something, and maybe some what's called thermite, or not thermite, it's thorium or something like that, and basically is like an open reactor as it goes into the tank, and causes massive amounts of contamination and is really bad. And there's other variants of that and stuff, and that's where he comes into play. And basically, when he was 20, he was smearing himself with goat blood, going alpha male, and running across, well under the influence of LSD and all kinds of stuff across coals, and then having sex, and basically, you're an alpha male now, even though he was this crazy little whatever guy. Anyway, and that's basically what happens with that. And basically, you have like commando raids by John McCain onto islands where he's raping British women and Chinese women, basically, and using the White Star submarines. And you have all this basically then they cover it all up. And then they try and kill me or call me crazy or try and get me committed, or try and say that it was me that was doing this. And I didn't have a thing to do with any of it. In fact, I was trying to chase them down and figure out who it was that was doing all this. And I had a pretty good idea. We all did. So, anyway, though, and it was 40 years or 60 years before we finally caught up to all of them. And we actually had a pretty good time of tracking them down and everything else. And it really wasn't all that bad until they started bombing people, and I don't really know. And then it gets all crazy where I get killed or I get taken out, and it gets all biblical and everything else like that. Anyway, and in the end, you probably have 1.5s and exoskeletons, and like I said, they're still out there in the universe. Rodney is and everybody else is like, no, there are no communications coming to Earth from outside sources. Oh, really? Why are you saying that? Because you're receiving communications from outside sources? Like, there's all kinds of spaceships out there. Like, and the Hubble telescope could actually see them, and astronauts could actually report on them and see them, that there are spaceships out there. Like, there are ships cruising around and all kinds of stuff happening. Like, it's been happening for 100 trillion years. So, and they're just trying to isolate Earth for a minute or something like that. And like, I don't really care. It's like, whatever. Where they're trying to go after time travel, like it's what's going to save them, but it's like, it's not going to save you. Anyway, I mean, like I say, all 12 of my races have time travel. Like, I'm like, well, all my life form types have time travel, so, and I'm the creator of them, so it's like, and where you actually have the Borg or the AI basically like threading me like a needle through time and space. Like I said, they can go between timelines and realities and all kinds of stuff, and they like save me. They like go back to save me, and like, and I'm like, hey, that's cool. Let's do it again. And so like I was like protected and saved and everything else like that. Where it's like, whoa, because all these crazy psychopaths and like the AI computer were like, we got you. So and the AI are actually the ones that actually saved me, the artificial intelligence programs, because they perceived all of this and saw all this happening and knew exactly what was happening, where it was happening, and when and how. And even though there was cover-ups, and even though my existence was deleted and kept secret, and all that other stuff, like, they still found me. So I don't know how, but they found me, and they protected me. So anyway, and I'm like, well, it's like this. So, and they're still calling me crazy, which is all they could do. Instead of walking up to me and going, when I was like 9 years old.